My name is Sarah. I'm 34 years old. I was a wife, a daughter, a sister, and a caretaker, all at the same time. And the night I finally broke, the night I said enough, my husband filed for divorce and locked me and my entire family out of our home. Let me tell you my side, because nobody ever asks for mine. I met James at a work conference 6 years ago. He was charming, ambitious, and he told me on our third date that family was everything to him. I fell in love with that man. I married him believing we shared the same values, that when things got hard, you showed up. You didn't walk away. We had a good life. A beautiful home that he owned before we married. I won't pretend otherwise. His name was on the deed. He worked hard. I respected that. I still do. But here is what people don't talk about, what nobody posts about online, is the invisible labor of holding a household together. James went to work sites. He swung hammers. He came home. I managed everything else. My family fell into crisis 2 years into our marriage. My father lost his business. My mother's health deteriorated, and before anyone says, she never specified what kind. It was chronic pain, anxiety, and early-stage heart complications. Real things. Documented things. Things that required someone present. James said yes when I asked if they could stay.
He said yes. I want to be clear about that.
Nobody forced him. Nobody held a gun to his head. He looked me in the eye and said, "Of course. They're family." So why, for years later, was that yes being used as a weapon against me at my own dinner table? Living with 6 people in one house is not easy. I know that. I lived it too. I was the one coordinating schedules, managing tensions, making sure my family didn't overstep, while also making sure my husband felt respected. I was the buffer every single day. James came home tired. I understand. But I was already tired before he walked through that door. My mother complains sometimes. Mothers do that. It comes from a place of worry, of feeling like a burden, of wanting her daughter's life to be more comfortable. Was it always fair to James?
No.
I'll admit that. But it also wasn't the calculated disrespect he made it out to be. It was an old woman, sick and displaced, feeling helpless. That night at dinner, she was doing what she always did, worrying out loud. And James, after years of quiet resentment he never once brought to me directly, chose that moment, in front of my entire family, to humiliate her. Maybe if I wasn't supporting 6 extra people, we'd have more money. The table went silent. I felt it in my chest, that specific shame of watching your mother be reduced to a financial burden in front of her own grandchildren's empty chairs, in a house she had tried so hard not to be a problem in. I reacted. I shouldn't have. I know that now more than I've ever known anything. I slapped him, and that was wrong. Completely wrong. I'm not defending it. I'm not excusing it. But I am asking you to understand what it feels like to watch someone you love be publicly humiliated, and snap. He left that night. I thought he needed space. I thought we would talk. Instead, he called a lawyer. By noon the next day, I had divorce papers in my hands. By 4 p.m., the locks on our home were changed. By evening, the utilities were shut off. Electric,
Gas.
water, internet.
Gone.
My mother, with her heart condition, was sitting in a house with no heat and no water. My father, who had spent 2 years trying to find stable work, had nowhere to go. My siblings, who, yes, should have been more independent, I won't deny that, were suddenly stranded. And I was standing in the driveway calling my husband's number while he let it ring. I'm not telling you this to gain sympathy. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand what decisive action looks like from the other side of it. It doesn't look empowering. It looks like a man who had been planning his exit for a long time, waiting for the one moment that justified it publicly. That slap was my worst moment. It became his greatest opportunity. The next weeks were the hardest of my life. I went to his job site. Yes, I did. I'm not ashamed of that. I needed him to see me. Not as a case file, not as a defendant in his divorce petition, but as his wife of 6 years who was watching her family sleep in cars outside a house they'd lived in for 5 years. He told me my mother should have raised me better. I drove away and sat in a parking lot for an hour before I could see the road clearly enough to drive. I signed the divorce papers 3 weeks later, not because I had given up, but because I finally understood that the man I had loved, the man who said yes, family is everything, had never really meant it. He meant his comfort,
His peace.
his money. And the moment those things were threatened, we were all disposable. The house was his. I knew that. The law agreed. I'm not arguing property rights here. I'm talking about what it means to share a life with someone, to build something together, and then watch them dismantle it overnight because they finally had a clean legal reason to do so. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into him at a grocery store. He nodded at me like I was someone he vaguely recognized. I stopped him anyway. I told him that my family had stopped speaking to me, that my mother had said I should have controlled him better, and yes, that broke me in ways I'm still piecing together. I told him I finally understood what I had put him through. He said he was sorry to hear it, and I believe he meant it. He told me he was happy. I said, good. You deserve it. And I meant that too. Here is what I know now, standing on the other side of all of it. I made real mistakes. I let my family take advantage of a man who was too proud to say clearly, I'm drowning. I mistook his silence for acceptance. I should have had harder conversations. I should have set boundaries with my own family years before that dinner. And I should never, ever have raised my hand to my husband. Ever. That single moment cost me everything, and it should have. Violence is not an answer, no matter how cornered you feel. But I also know this. A man who loved me would have come back upstairs that night. He would have said, we need to talk about this family situation. It's killing me. He would have given me the chance to choose him before he chose his lawyer. He didn't. Because the truth is, and I've had a long time to sit with this, James didn't leave because I slapped him. James left because he had already wanted to leave.
And I